Tonight on the NTV Evening News Hour. One man is dead after a collision on Veterans Memorial Highway. A group of business leaders urges government not to rush back into negotiations for Churchill Falls.
So why should we rush back to negotiate? You know, are we ready? We don't think so.
And Cartwright residents protest against the cancellation of a new school.
It was a lovely day for most today. We do have some rain through Labrador tonight, which is going to build and move west to east across Newfoundland. A pretty even 5 to 10 millimeters in there. We'll pinpoint that time for you and talk a little bit about this coming up.
The award-winning NTV Evening News Hour with Tony Marie Wiseman, Michael Connors, and your weather forecast with Ryan Harding.
Good evening. We begin with a tragedy. One person is dead after a collision on Veterans Memorial Highway.
A 68-year-old man succumbed to injuries sustained in the crash that happened just before 10 o'clock yesterday morning. The highway was closed for much of the day. RCMP officers from several detachments arrived to help alongside emergency medical services and area fire departments. 2 vehicles were extensively damaged while a third was stopped at the scene. The occupants of both vehicles were taken to hospital in St. John's. Sources told NTV News the man who died was driving a pickup truck. His passenger sustained injuries that were serious but not life-threatening. The driver of the other vehicle, a U-Haul truck, was not seriously hurt. Police are working to find out what caused the collision. An RCMP traffic collision analyst and the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner are involved in the investigation. Witnesses, including anyone with dash camera footage who have not already spoken with police, are asked to contact Bay Roberts RCMP.
A group of business leaders, lawyers, and energy experts have come forward calling on the province to reject the Churchill Falls MOU outright rather than renegotiate the deal. NTV's Ben Cleary explains.
The Churchill Falls MOU is not in the public interest. That's what the independent review commissioned by the PC government found. Since then, the province has put a negotiating team in place as they look to renegotiate the MOU signed with Quebec back in 2024.
So why should we rush back to negotiate? You know, are we ready? We don't think so.
Gabe Gregory is an accountant and independent business consultant. He and a handful of others, including former NL Hydro CEO Bill Wells, economist David Vardy, businessman Des Sullivan, and lawyer Kathy Behan, have come forward calling for the rejection of the Churchill Falls MOU.
We can take the time to develop some benchmarks as to where we should be going in the next 10, 20, 30. I mean, this is a very long-term project that's here, and it's going to take time to get it right.
The group says the MOU undervalues power from the Churchill Falls plant and lacks protections found in other major energy agreements. They say time is on Newfoundland and Labrador's side, and the province should review its long-term energy strategy before re-engaging in negotiations. Also adding a future deal should include access to outside energy markets through Quebec.
And if we're going to, commit ourselves to 40, 50 years of supply to that market solely, as we've been doing for the past 5 decades, then we're really going to sell ourselves very, very short.
Meanwhile, the opposition is raising concerns about the MOU for a different reason today. The Liberals are crying foul over the Churchill Falls Negotiation Oversight Committee, specifically the hiring of a former chair of the Muskrat Falls Oversight Committee.
And now you've got the current government under Premier Tony Wakeham doing all these things, connecting folks who have ties to Muskrat Falls in key roles associated with Churchill Falls. It's concerning for us.
Liberal MHA Fred Hutton says the committee includes Julia Mullally, who would have been directly involved in decisions related to Muskrat Falls, adding what's absent from the panel is expertise in energy markets and regulations. Hutton says the critique is not about the individuals themselves, but instead the process.
Our question is more about politicizing this and the connections to Muskrat Falls. That's what concerns us. And we want to make sure that we've learned our lesson, and the folks who were involved learned their lesson from Muskrat Falls.
In a statement, the Premier's office snapped back at the Liberals, saying the opposition is focused on attacking individuals rather than engaging with substance, adding the Churchill Falls Negotiations Oversight Committee was appointed because its members bring decades of experience in things like governance, finance, and engineering, saying the suggestion they should be disqualified because they held senior roles in previous governments is unreasonable. Ben Cleary, NTV News.
Students across the province are looking forward to summer vacation starting in a few short weeks. But as NTV's Beth Penny tells us, the teachers' union is weighing in on potential changes that could be coming for teachers and students in the near future.
The federal government is expected to introduce legislation on Wednesday evening to make social media and AI chatbots safer for school-aged children.
Yes, our teachers, our members, they definitely see the effects of social media firsthand. Social media, it has been proven through research and through court cases that, it impacts our children.
NLTA President Dale Lamb says his members see each and every day the harsh impacts that social media can have on young kids, and says it's important for all levels of government to consider these impacts when creating rules and regulations.
It's very important that government shows leadership in implementing such a ban, but we certainly hear a lot of the mental health effects on our children in our classrooms.
In January of 2025, NL schools implemented a new cell phone policy where kindergarten to grade 6 students would not have access to their phones at all during the school day. For junior high and high school students, they can use their devices at recess and lunchtime. Lamb says teachers have noticed a difference.
Our members certainly share good experiences with the cell phone ban. Anytime your students are in class and they're focused on the curriculum and learning, it's a good thing. So we've had a lot of positive feedback on the cell phone ban here in our province.
A potential change to school start times is another conversation happening between teachers, parents, and students right now. Although the change wouldn't happen until September of 2027, Lamb says if parents say that they're in favor of these changes, he would like to see government savings being put back into educational services.
I prefer to hear that the resources will be put back into education on the front lines, in the classrooms, ensuring that the needs of our students are met so that teachers are content.
National media outlets have indicated that the federal bill is expected to include a ban on social media for kids under the age of 16, although platforms that meet some safety standards could obtain exemptions. Beth Penny, NTV News.
After news last week that the province was throwing out plans for a new school in Cartwright, the town council and residents held a protest on Tuesday. The protest took place outside the site of the now halted school. It had a goal of meeting with government officials. The town council says the Department of Transportation has confirmed a meeting will take place next week. While details have yet to be confirmed, the town is insisting the meeting take place in person. After receiving confirmation of the meeting, protesters agreed to move away from the project site to allow the contractor to proceed with work to secure the site and address water management and drainage issues in the area. With work continuing at the site today, the town council has since contacted government asking for clarification on the intended scope of work ahead of next week's meeting.
A local business hopes to rebuild after a massive fire last March that forced an evacuation. Landing's Pub and Eatery in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, was a community staple for a decade, with plans to expand this year before a fire destroyed a large portion of the building in March. Owner Jim Parsons shared on social media today that he hopes to rebuild the business on the remaining infrastructure after a recent structural engineering report. The rebuild request is now in the hands of the town of Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, which will make a decision at tonight's council meeting. Parsons says the new building, if approved, will house Landing's Pub and Eatery upstairs and a new processing facility on the lower floor that will offer locally sourced agricultural and seafood products.
As warmer temperatures draw more people outside, police are reminding bikers of all ages about the importance of safety. NTV's Rosie Mullally has more.
You have to be very careful, extra careful.
Frank
King figures he's been riding a bike more than 60 years, the last 4 on his e-bike, a machine that can reach speeds of up to 30 kilometers an hour. With faster wheels and more traffic, he said there's plenty more to look out for these days, which is why he'd never head out on his bike without his helmet and a reflective vest.
And the key thing is to be always aware of any cars or vehicles around you. And you have to be the one who's particularly cautious and careful. And if you're not, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
That's the message RNC is stressing for bikers of all ages. But with school almost done for the summer, Constable Stephanie Myers says it's particularly important for parents to speak to children. She says police are called to too many bike accidents, which are often the result of recklessness. She said when parents take their child's bike out, ensure their helmets fit and that their bike is the right size. Also, check the brakes.
It all comes down to complacency, too. We don't want to put safety to the wayside. We want to keep that front and center. So have the conversations about with any cyclist, but specifically children, about how to bike safely.
But when it comes to biker safety, police say motorists also play a big role.
We want to remind them, don't drive distracted, don't be on your phone regardless, but specifically when cyclists are out about this time of year. And always, check your blind spot before changing lanes and reduce speeds in the areas. And if you see a cyclist, give them ample distance. Don't get too close to them while they're on the roadways.
Rosie Mullally, NTV News.
The Wild Cove Waste Management Facility resumed normal operations in Corner Brook today. That's after a fire broke out at the landfill site last Thursday. But they are advising residents that residual smoke may linger as crews continue to identify and smother hotspots.
Tonight's business report is brought to you by the Take Charge Business Efficiency Program. Looking for energy savings and rebates for your business? Start by talking to the Take Charge team.
The Bank of Canada held its key interest rate at 2.25% today. The TSX fell 260 points to 34,151. The Venture Exchange down 21 points to 912. The Dow fell 953 to 49,919. And the Nasdaq was also down 509 points to 25,170. Gold dropped $183.46 to $4,077.39 U.S. an ounce. Brent crude oil was up, though, $1.97 to $93.42 U.S. per barrel. The Canadian dollar down 1/100 cent to 71.68 cents U.S. Fortis was up 95 cents a share to $78.76. Labrador iron ore down 39 cents to $27.10, and Altius Minerals dropped $1.78 to $53.85.
Tonight's weather brought to you by... Check out the Chevrolet 0% event. Get 0% on select 2026 Chevrolet models and trims. See your dealer for details.
Oh, we're still enjoying a pretty nice run of good weather there.
We are, Michael, but as we know, things aren't always as they seem. During NTV News First Edition, Ryan made a good point that since October, we've had a bit of a trend. We've had a couple good days, a couple meh days, good days, meh days. So if we just roll with that, I don't think we'll be disappointed. What do you think, Ryan?
Bring on the meh. I say basically. Listen, in the next 48 hours, pretty well doesn't matter where you are in the province, it's going to rain twice. And it's my job here now to show you where and when exactly. But all in all, it's pretty well going to equal out anywhere from 5 to 15 millimeters, with the majority of that being in the 5 to 10 millimeter range. So with that in mind, let's go do it. We take a look and see it's cooler on the coastline in Labrador, 4 in Nain compared to the 14 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Still into the 20s for Labrador City. Looks like Corner Brook leading the way in Newfoundland at 17, and that 11 in St. John's, about to get closer to that 5 in Bonavista, as we are shortly going to see that blue sneak in and take over the province as a whole. Now, it was a beautiful day, and it started with a beautiful sunrise, maybe even a sunset last night. We can see that in Dildo here. Nicole showing this lovely scene and letting us know no AI here, no filter needed, just raw natural beauty. We love it. Nicole, thank you so much for that. Over to St. Lawrence. Yeah, the sun came up this morning and it looked absolutely gorgeous. Judy is showing us that on the Burin Peninsula, so thank you, Judy. Over a little further west, we go into Cape Ray, where this made me laugh. We got this fella here. I'm not sure if he knows or not, but there's another little fella here hanging on for dear life, and I thought, I've seen that before. Yeah, ta-ta-ta, putty-tat, absolutely. And just a little further north in the McDougall's area, while the cat was out hunting, the dog was out splashing. So Rhonda sending in that gorgeous photo. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, back on the Avalon and CBS, this pooch was in a canoe. Love it. Jimmy Roach sending in that photo. I tell you, boss, I really appreciate the photos. I love it so much. Thank you. Weather at ntv.ca or over on Facebook. Two good spots to get those to me. This one came in about a month and a half ago on the East Coast Trail. Think about that. About a month and a half ago. A beauty in its own right, but that's what things look like. So we'll take it as we can get it, hey? On the East Coast Trail with some snow. Not that long ago, Susan sent that in. With that in mind, let's take a look at the East Coast Trail forecast for the next, what do you want to call it, 24 hours or so. We can see a little extra cloud in the morning at 7 degrees. Warms up to 12 by the noon hour, but then we're going to get some north wind, bring it back down to the 9-degree mark. And it looks like right around that 3:30, 4 p.m. mark, we do have some rain passing through the eastern side of the island. So it all starts tonight with some rain up in Labrador, actually, and that's what's going to travel down here. We're going to see those clouds close in on what is going to be a beautiful evening, but through the overnight, we'll have that full cloud cover, and that allows for the rain. So this is the first round of rain. The second one is going to bleed into Friday. So we've got a stretch here now where there are some damp conditions, but they come and go. But again, it's pretty well all equal in terms of the totals. It's just a matter of when and where. So it starts on the west coast through the Bay Verte Peninsula, the lower part of the Great Northern Peninsula. We see some on the south coast to kick things off tomorrow morning as well. It looks like the inland portion of the island is going to be on the lower end of the scale this time around, and we'll add some of the totals up in that second wave. So we'll push through. We see that reach the Burin Peninsula around that 10 a.m. mark. The Kittiwake Coast and Fogo Island, Twillingate getting in on it there as well. We do see some more rain passing through Parsons Pond over the Bay Verte Peninsula. So that secondary chance at some rain on the Bay Verte Peninsula does put that spot in particular closer to the 15-millimeter range. The other area is going to be just across into Fogo Island. Other than that, we're in 5 to 10. So that rain in noon hour starts to lighten up on the Burin Peninsula, and it's right at that 3 p.m. mark where we see some light rain on the Avalon. Now, we do have some south wind coming up, so I do think we're going to see a little extra rain time spent in the Avalon compared to what we're showing here. And there are some other models that we can go over a little bit later that would indicate that as well. But we'll keep our eye on it anyway. Meanwhile, we see that secondary bout of rain coming into the island on the northern peninsula, and that travels west to east as well. We can see here, bang, 8 p.m. There's some heavy rain for the Bay Verte Peninsula Thursday evening. That trickles down into central. That's where we're getting that 5-millimeter mark through Grand Falls, Windsor, through to Gander. And it looks like through the overnight, that's going to lead over to the Bonavista Peninsula and take a little bit longer, right around the 5 a.m. mark on Friday to hit the Avalon. And then we just have some cloud on the Saturday, which looks to blend into the Sunday as well. For Labrador, yeah, we got that rain Thursday and then some sun and cloud thereafter. The wind was light today. That's going to continue to be light into tomorrow, a southeast wind, so the Avalon likely going to be in around that 10-degree mark again, as we saw on the East Coast Trail forecast. If you want to take a quick peek at the Friday, it starts early in the overnight hours on the west and northern side of the island, and then it picks up to that 40 to 60 kilometer per hour range for Cartwright all the way down the northeastern side of the island. So a little extra wind coming from the north on the Friday. But before we get to that, I just want to show you some daytime high potentials here. Losing a degree at a time, seemingly, as we've gone on here the last few days. So the runway for those daytime highs, just a little step backwards from today, although St. John's, to be fair, yeah, 12 down to 10. That's a few degrees. Definition of it, actually. But look at Labrador City, 21 today, 16 tomorrow. And we can see where that rain all starts. Some light rain tonight in Happy Valley Goose Bay. It does build in the south coast there for your 5 to 10 millimeters. Don't worry about that. We can see the 5-degree mark. I think that that's going to fall as simply rain. And then it's out the other side by the supper hour, and we have some clearing skies in Labrador. Amanda, Michael?
Thank you very much, Ryan. Well, students from across Central were on the Exploits River this morning to release salmon fry they've spent the year raising in the classroom. NTV's Colleen Lewis has the story.
Today, grade 5 and 6 students from New World Island made the road trip to the Exploits River, where they released salmon they spent the year raising in their classroom. It's a project guidance counselor Paul White feels is important for conservation and the students.
You know, it tells us that we got clean air, clean water, a pristine environment, healthy people. It dictates life, especially in times when there's global warming, climate change, all that kind of stuff. That we need our wild salmon, because where salmon thrive, life thrives.
Cassie, what do you think about doing this today?
I love it so much.
How much do you know about salmon?
A lot.
Down there. I learned a lot of interesting things about salmon that I didn't know before.
Have you learned anything from this?
Yeah. A lot, yeah. It's nice to take care of salmon because you can learn how to take care of them.
Terry Paul coordinates the program through the Environment and Resources Management Association on the Exploits River.
No, the IRMA right now is the only group that's running this program. We also supply eggs to the East Coast, and the program out there is facilitated by the Fluvarium. So we've got 21 schools here that IRMA looks after. Some of those are with a partnership with Grossmore National Park. So we have 3 schools over there in Cowhead, Trout River, and Bombay. And we'll have the 4th next year. And we're as far as Summerford.
Anglers say programs like these deserve more funding.
If there's no salmon, well, you're not going to have no one fishing. Then it makes it bad for businesses. And it's going to make it bad for the kids that's growing up that's into this program, the Catch and Release program. Very good program, and hopefully it helps keep our stocks up, so it keeps the future generations going.
The salmon are being released at several locations throughout the week. For NTV News, I'm Colleen Lewis in Grand Falls, Windsor.
As we get deeper into wildfire season, the province is reminding the public of updates to the Forestry Act that came into force just last week. Some of those amendments and penalties include fireworks and sky lanterns are banned when the fire index is high, very high, or extreme. Sawmills must maintain a minimum buffer of 30 meters of non-flammable material between residue piles and surrounding vegetation. Deliberately setting a fire now has a penalty ranging from $100,000 to $500,000. A new offense has been created to address recklessly or negligently starting a forest fire with a penalty of $50,000 to $150,000. A new wildfire prevention and management page is now available on the province's website.
The RCMP are welcoming the guilty plea and sentencing of a 41-year-old man in relation to threats made against a Russian ambassador to Canada 4 years ago. In 2022, police were notified of unwanted emails received at the Russian embassy in Ottawa containing threats directed towards the Russian ambassador and their family. The suspect was identified as Kagan Eric Roy. Roy was arrested in January 2023 by members of the Newfoundland and Labrador section of the RCMP's National Security Enforcement Section. In March, Roy pled guilty to charges of criminal harassment and uttering threats. On June 9th, he received a 24-month conditional sentence order containing strict conditions imposed by the courts to be followed by a 36-month probation period.
Reporting a crime to the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary will be a little easier now with a new updated online reporting system. The online system is to report incidents that do not require immediate response from an officer. They include lost property, theft or fraud under $5,000, property damage, and motor vehicle collisions. The RNC say investigations are conducted in the same manner as phone or in-person reporting. The new system is expected to help the RNC prioritize investigations.
The online reporting will ideally alleviate pressures from the front line, allow our officers that are working operational patrol services to get back to higher priority calls. But again, if you do need an officer, if you're unsure whether or not it requires a police response, certainly call us and we will have that chat through our communications comm center, and we will send an officer if need be.
RNC officers arrested a 20-year-old man Tuesday afternoon after a woman showed up at the police station advising she had been assaulted. It was around 12:30 p.m. when officers met the woman at the Mount Pearl police station. She said her male partner had assaulted her and damaged some property. Police found the suspect at a restaurant in Paradise and arrested him. He was charged with assault and property damage.
While on patrols near the area of the Health Sciences Center yesterday morning, an RNC officer noticed a security guard chasing a man through the parking lot. Police, along with security, were able to catch up to the suspect and detain him. Through the course of their investigation, it was learned that the male suspect was going through parked vehicles around the hospital. The 24-year-old man was arrested and brought to the holding cell. He was charged with mischief, breach of release order, and breach of probation.
Still ahead in tonight's news, Mary Kate O'Neill tells us about one man's bucket list trip in your community. Will the sun continue? Ryan Harding has more in the weather forecast. And when we come back on the Inside Story, more on why some advocates want the government to slow down Churchill Falls talks. This is the NTV Evening News Hour. Welcome back to the NTV Evening News Hour. Tonight on the Inside Story, we hear more from a group raising concerns about Churchill Falls negotiations. Gabe Gregory spoke with NTV's Ben Cleary about why the province should not rush back into talks.
The group that I'm representing, we put a lot of work and effort into preparing a detailed, comprehensive submission to the Independent Review Commission. I'll refer to them as the IRC. And we saw that report come out just a few weeks ago. We didn't want to subvert the report, so we held our submission, but we always believe that, this information needs to be put in the public. And as one of the 350 has reported groups that have made presentations or submissions to the IRC, we felt strongly that we need to be transparent and put the information in the public. So today we selected as our day. We have concerns that, at this stage we don't rush back into a negotiation. The IRC report made it very clear that the people of the province are not the principal beneficiaries of the MOU. So, we think there should be a stepping back period. We should take our time. We have lots of time to get this right. Our Premier is saying he wants to get it right. But we appear to be, right now, rushing back to the negotiating table. And that seems to be driven principally by, the interests coming out of Quebec at this time, not so much from our standpoint. The report made it clear, I think, that, we as a province and our government needs to take time to strategize and develop a comprehensive plan to deal with the various components of the MOU. And that's going to take us some time. It doesn't appear that we've taken that time. No, certainly nothing in the public that demonstrates that we have a strategic plan going forward. So why should we rush back to negotiate? Are we ready? We don't think so.
So is it fair to say time is on our side then? Would you like to see Newfoundland and Labrador sit back and, I think the release said, look at the long-term energy needs of the province before going back to a deal?
Of course, yes. I mean, Churchill Falls itself, the existing plant, offers enormous opportunity. I mean, the production out of the plant is, 3 to 4 times the quantity of electricity currently consumed in our province. And like everybody, we want to see this resource, valuable resource, used to generate and develop the economy of the province and to the best interests of the people of the province. The IRC report made it clear from a mining perspective just solely that there's tremendous wealth and opportunity in Labrador itself, and that the MOU doesn't capitalize on that opportunity.
Turning to national news, hundreds of farmers gathered on Parliament Hill today, mobilizing against Ottawa's high-speed train project. This in the wake of a statement by the Parti Québécois that it would withdraw the province's support if elected in the fall election. Here's CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin.
Farmers took their protest to Parliament Hill today, intent on derailing the Alto high-speed train project.
I'm the 7th generation on the farm, and the train, it's really not good for the next generations, and it can destroy agriculture.
They say they fear losing land, losing part of their livelihood. Conservatives lent their support to their cause.
To fight for our rural communities, to fight for our taxpayers and for affordability against this $90 billion liberal white elephant.
This and other signs say farmers of growing opposition. On Tuesday, the Parti Québécois vowed to withdraw Quebec's support for the high-speed train project if elected in the October provincial vote, and it's leading in the polls. It says the goal of the project is bolstering Canadian unity and says the central issue for Quebecers is local mobility, not travel to Ontario. But several mayors, including Montreal's and Quebec City's, defended the 1,000-kilometre electric rail corridor to link Toronto to Quebec City. It's good for the economy, they say, good for the environment. The federal government says it would create more than 50,000 jobs and that Ottawa is footing the bill.
This is a project, a formidable nation-building project that includes Quebec. And of course, were it not to include Quebec, then there's really no project. But it is a federal project.
But in Mirabel, opposition is particularly fierce. Thousands of farms were expropriated decades ago for an airport terminal that never really took off. They want to stop any train project that could section out the region.
And farmers say they'll continue to hold protests, continue to try to have their voices heard by Ottawa. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Mirabel, Quebec.
Tonight's weather brought to you by Come From Away Gander. 25 years ago, the skies closed on 9/11. This is the story of the town that opened its doors.
How are you? Let's dive into it. 11 degrees in St. John, still 23 in Labrador City. We got 22 in Halifax. Look at the rain. I mentioned, and Amanda mentioned it too, these kind of 2-day breaks. You can kind of see it across the country where there's 2 days in between that, 2 days in between that, and then 2 days in between what's likely coming off the Pacific coast as well. So plenty of rain out there. We picked some leaving through Clarenville on its way into Fort McMurray at 13 degrees. We see some through Montreal as well. Listen, we got a lot of people who watch from Alberta, and I'm going to show you one in particular. But in between Edmonton and Fort McMurray, you may have heard of it. There's a community called Athabasca. And actually in Athabasca, there's a big, beautiful river that goes by. Walleyes, northern pike, Rocky Mountain whitefish. Great place to fish for that, for the record. You know what else fishes for fish in that river? Black bears. Joy Ralph sending in a ring cam photo there on his patio. All right, we'll bring it home with some wildlife out here, just outside Clarenville. A little less intimidating looking. Crystal Petal sending this one in. I said this before on Newsday, I do believe. Hard pressed to get a kid to sit still long enough for a photo, let alone, what is that, a silver kit fox? That's what I'm going with. Crystal, what do you think? Let me know. All right, let's dive into it. Tomorrow, we are going to be live from outside of St. John's. Goose Pond is where we're going to go. The Easter Seals Luxury Cabin Lottery. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the prizes, but really we're going to talk about those proceeds in support of Easter Seals and all the good that they do in our community. Tomorrow in particular is the early bird prize deadline, and this is what you can go away with. So more on that tomorrow. Let's see if we're going to be driving through some rain, myself and Tony Barrington, on the way to that. Well, 9 a.m. we have some coming into Grand Bank and Fortune, making its way into Marystown a little bit later. It looks like that rain is, in fact, for the most part, the heaviest stuff going to stay on the southern portion of the Avalon. Again, there is that south wind, and it is bringing it up to the metro region for some light rain at about 3 p.m. And again, 5 to 10 millimeters between the two rainfalls for pretty well everywhere on the island. But it looks like the metro region in particular is going to wait for the secondary rain to pick up that total. We do see that passing through Grand Falls, Windsor Thursday evening through to the Kittiwake Coast, landing in Bonavista as what could be potentially a little bit of heavy rain, to be fair, through the overnight. And then a little bit later in the overnight, we'll see that pick up in St. John's, and the tail of that passes and is likely finishing up as some light rain during the commute. But all times in between, you can see a healthy amount of cloud, and then into Friday morning, that wind does start to pick up from the north, and that's going to cool things down and limit those daytime highs. For Newfoundland, where it all starts is the west coast overnight tonight as some light rain. It picks up through the south coast there a little earlier. We're going to see that pass right through the Canigro Peninsula late morning into the early hours of the afternoon. We do have a little bit of a break, maybe even some sun breaks in it for Corner Brook at 15 degrees at 11 a.m., although you don't have to go too far north to see that rain continuing. And we'll see that pass through the northern peninsula on and off pretty well all day Thursday, but there is some moments of some broken cloud for parts of the west coast and south coast in there tomorrow afternoon. So some enjoyable moments in between the rain. There's that secondary rainfall coming on the northern peninsula around the supper hour Thursday. Builds for a little bit of heavy rain over the Bay Verte Peninsula, but holding at 15 degrees in Springdale. You compare that to where we're getting some north wind in St. Anthony at 3 degrees. And then that'll move across central, and that's where we picked up on the eastern side in that Thursday evening rain. And on Thursday evening, we do finish off with some light rain there on the west coast, but that opens up relatively quickly on the Friday. Quickly into Labrador, we see some rain tonight passing through Happy Valley Goose Bay, some lighter rain in Churchill Falls. It all funnels down to the south coast, and we are getting that wind off of the water, and it is keeping temperatures cool. I don't think we see it cool enough to see snow. If we do, we know the drill. It's not going to last. It doesn't stick. Wet snow at worst. The mix looks like rain at best, and that pulls down and out the other side. And then Thursday evening, we start to see some skies clear. So we can take a quick peek at a 5-day forecast here and show that that rain does, in fact, pass through Friday morning, but breaks off after there for some extra cloud on Saturday and the sun returning Sunday and Monday. And we see the sun come out Friday, Saturday for the south coast, but Sunday, Monday is what we're reserving for the cloud with some double digits the whole way through. We'll get down into the single digits for Central Friday and Saturday, and then look at that jump right back up Sunday and Monday. Sun and cloud 15 and 18, and that's very seasonal temperatures in the evening there, 2, 3, and 5 degrees. Over to the west coast, the rain on the Thursday is rewarded with some sun and cloud Friday and Saturday. Cooler, sure, 13 degrees and 14 on the Sunday, and then we'll start making that push back in towards that 20-degree mark Monday thereafter. So we move up to the northern peninsula where we're down to 5 and 1 degree Thursday evening. So a bit of a chilly one, but warm enough to keep that as rain. Sun and cloud Friday, Sunday, and Monday. Looks like the island as a whole going to be circled in that cloud on the Saturday. 7 degrees, the average for the northern peninsula. South coast of Labrador seeing that cloud Saturday and Sunday as well. So we'll circle Friday and Monday for that sun and cloud. 7 and 9 degrees, back into the double digits on the Monday. A little further north, a little cooler. We do see those open skies a little earlier on the Thursday and the rain return on the Monday. We'll hold the rain for the Monday in Happy Valley Goose Bay as well with some extra cloud on the Sunday. Double digits throughout, and just the one day below the double digits for Labrador West, and that comes in on Saturday, and it looks like that rain does last a little bit longer but holds for the most part in Labrador West. But we'll follow that as we go the rest of the week. We'll see you soon.
The Stanley Cup Final is tied at 2 games apiece after the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 4 last night. Here are the highlights.
Canes on the man advantage. Shane Gostisbehere's shot hit a deflected Jordan Stahl, and the Canes captain beats Carter Hart for his 6th of the postseason. Gives them a goal in 4 straight games. It's 3-1 Carolina. Let's check in on Marner again. 4 minutes into the second. Going to make his way into the zone. Rasmus Anderson then feeds William Karlsson, and he snipes past Bussey for his 3rd. Marner picks up an assist on that one. That cuts the lead to 1. Now late in the second, Colton Sissons to the red-hot Brett Howden. All he can do in the playoffs is score goals. Howden's playoff leading 14th. Vegas scores 3 times on their first 11 shots of the hockey game. They come back to tie the game at 3. Let's go to the 3rd now with 13 minutes.
We get to check in with Mary Walsh. She is headlining a benefit show this evening, and I sat down with her just recently, last month, in fact, to talk about her memoir. So we take you back to that backstage pass right after this. Welcome back to the NTV Evening News Hour. Mary Walsh is headlining a benefit show this evening at the Jag Sound House in St. John's. It's called Raise Your Voices, a night of comedy with Mary Walsh, with proceeds going to the Saltwater Community Association. I recently sat down with the comedic icon at her St. John's home to talk about her new memoir. Here's an encore presentation of that backstage pass.
The Toronto Star called me a big, loud, opinionated old bag. So I could have called the book that, a big, loud, opinionated old bag, but I decided to go with Brassy Bit of Asian Crumpet.
Mary Walsh doesn't take herself too seriously and is unapologetically herself. However, it wasn't always that easy.
And I never was happy. I don't remember ever being happy as a child. Any time, nothing ever was. When people say to me, "Oh, when you were, ambushing, the prime ministers and stuff, and it looked like such fun, and you seemed so happy," and I would go, "Oh no, I wasn't. I wasn't happy. I was thinking, oh no, if this goes well, what am I going to do? How am I going to top it? I'm not going to be able to keep this up." I always felt an enormous amount of pressure, an enormous amount of I'm just not good enough. I'm not going to be able to do it. I just had that.
Now in her early 70s, Mary Walsh has found her peace.
A lot of my story was pretty dark, but then again, the lucky thing is that they asked me when they did, because, I got to the point where I'm happier now than I've ever been.
In her best-selling book, Brassy Bit of Aging Crumpet, A Memoir in Pieces, Mary Walsh reflects on her life through chronological essays, beginning at just 8 months old and growing up next door to her own parents and siblings. She presents her life with brutal honesty and grace.
Here's the thing, though, Amanda. All these things that went so wrong, like my parents giving me away when I was 8 months old and being brought up by my 2 maiden aunts, but everything, like not marrying that guy from Denver, oh my God. I constantly dodged a bullet all the way through, whereas I thought, oh no. And that's the way that life is sometimes. Your greatest failures also... This whole thing these days, the philosophy of learning, it's just a chance to learn stuff. And it is, I believe that you learn every time you fall down, you learn something.
Mary says aging has unlocked her happiness, and there's research to back it up, published in the Journal of Social Science and Medicine.
They've done all these longitudinal and generational studies, and an older age is a happier age. There's a U-bend of happiness. You start off pretty happy. I didn't. And then you go into a kind of slough of despond. Sorry, Amanda, but it's kind of where you are now. And then finally you get to an age where you become the subject of your own life, and you're not really desiring to be the object of somebody else's desire. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Growing into herself, as Mary says, has allowed her to revisit some of the darker times in her life, expressed candidly in her memoir, along with appreciate all the good. I asked her if the process was cathartic.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. It really was. It really was. And so I was thinking the other day, I really had a hard time. I had a hard time doing it because, first of all, I didn't want to do it. And second, there's a lot of emotional aspects to my life that I really didn't want to be going back at. But by the end of it, I was just really happy that HarperCollins had made that offer and that we'd got it done. And there it is. And so I'm really happy.
Brassy Bit of Aging Crumpet, A Memoir in Pieces is available now.
I'm in the 4th stage of my life, I would guess. And so how wonderful and how lucky I am, and what a blessing it is, and what a gift it is to have gotten here. So I could have just died when I was still really pissed off about everything.
Your community, brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
It's something everybody wishes they could do at least once in their lives. A retired RCMP officer left Newfoundland and Labrador today to complete a bucket list trip across the country. NTV's Mary Kate O'Neill has his story tonight in your community.
"86-year-old Chuck Gowit isn't raising money or trying to conquer so many kilometers in some kind of record speed. No. He's just looking to scratch an important item off of his bucket list.
I've been in every city in North America, I guess, but I've never been between.
Gowit is a retired RCMP officer, and along his trip, he's going to visit some of his fellow retired colleagues.
Waterford was where I spent the bulk of my career and met my wife. And at the time that I was in the RCMP, you had to wait 5 years before you could get married. I guess love won out over gangs, and so I left the force just short of 5 years, but continued a relationship. And that's part of what this trip is all about, is that I'm going to be visiting the colleagues that are still alive for my troop as I cross the country.
Gowit left St. John's this morning, and he plans to drive all the way to British Columbia by the end of the month. But his journey won't stop at the other end of the country. There's a second leg that leads into the United States.
What is making you want to drive right here from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, all the way across to BC?
Because I can. That's the only answer that makes any sense. And I've got the time, I've got the money. It doesn't make. Let's enjoy and see our beautiful country.
Chuck Gowit is the definition of why not. And by knocking a big-ticket item off of his bucket list at 86 years old, he's proof that age is just a number.
What would you like to say to people that are watching this and they're kind of teetering back and forth on maybe a dream, a bucket list item? What would you like to say to them?
Do it. You got to keep active. If you don't, people who retire, that's very uncommon anymore because people still want part-time jobs. But if you've got the opportunity, take advantage of it. Get involved with any social activities within your community and stay there. That's what I do. I'm 86, I'll be 87 this year, and I've got other things I want to do. I hope the bucket doesn't have a leak in it. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
And that's what's happening in your community. For NTV News, I'm Mary Kate O'Neill.
Well, from the big screen to the small screen, today's entertainment update keeps returning to the stage. Here's CNN's David Daniel with the Hollywood Minute.
The official trailer is out for Hadestown the Musical. The Tony and Grammy-winning show featuring the original Broadway stars is headed to theaters beginning July 24th for 5 nights only.
This isn't the end. This is just the beginning.
Actually, it's the end. Netflix has announced its award-winning stage show Stranger Things, The First Shadow, will bring down the curtain in London's West End on December 27th and wrap up its Broadway run on January 3rd.
There is an excitement.
Leslie Manville has a new gig. The newly minted Tony Award winner has joined the cast of the Prime Video series Escorted as a cabaret legend and a force of nature. Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso and Office Romance is set to star as her son, as well as writing and producing the show. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Stay with us while we take one more break on the NTV Evening News Hour. Ryan Harding will be back to recap the weather forecast. A lovely view of Kitty Bitty Lake there. And when we return, Jim Furlong will have Today in History.
Welcome back. Well, it remains a vital organization in battling alcohol addiction, and it was founded on this date in history. Here is Jim Furlong.
This was a very important organization. You have to trust me on this. On a June day in Akron, Ohio, 2 recovering alcoholics founded the 12-step rehabilitation program called Alcoholics Anonymous. It's called today AA. The organization controls the disease, alcoholism, through group discussion and confession. There's no dues in AA, no formal rules. Anonymity rules the day. Anyone who wants to stop drinking qualifies for membership. It's estimated the total membership in AA is now in the millions. Guided group discussions and confession. That's the key to it all. AA began on June day. A day, well, you know what? It was this date in history. This is Jim Furlong for NTV News.
Birthdays and anniversaries brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation. We are the foundation that takes action so we all can take care of each other.
We begin by wishing Max and Donna Osman a very happy 50th wedding anniversary. And it's 66 years of marriage for Ben and Marion Abbott of Bonavista. A very happy 66th anniversary to you. A big anniversary greeting for Ben and Elsie Hiscock, who still reside in their own home in Champneys West. They're celebrating 70 years of marriage. Congratulations. A happy 92nd birthday going up to Tib Tremblett, who celebrated on the 8th. Greetings from family and friends. A happy 56th anniversary to Lindsay and Gladys Bungay of Grand Bank. They celebrate today. Happy anniversary. A happy 59th anniversary to this couple, Eugene and Rosalind Gibbons of, or I should say, of St. Stephen's, St. Mary's Bay. What a beautiful photo, 59 years ago today. Happy anniversary. A happy 90th birthday going out to Jack Verge. Love from your family and friends from all over. A happy 93rd birthday to Sylvia May. Love your family and friends. And it's a golden anniversary for Annette and Gary Foote. They're celebrating 50 years. There they are, wedding day and today, as happy as ever. This is an impressive anniversary, 73 years of marriage for Stuart and Cinderella Button of Mount Pearl. A very, very happy anniversary to you. A happy 50th to Aletha and Dominic, or Tony Ricketts, who live in Bonavista, formerly lived in Labrador City. Look at that great photo there. Love that wedding dress. Happy 90th birthday going up to Mr. Cecil Ryan of St. George's. Love and best wishes from your family and friends. And it's a big birthday for Nora Penny, who turns 100 years old. A very happy birthday to you, Nora. She resides at the Carmelite House in Grand Falls, Windsor. A happy 100th birthday. Happy 60th anniversary to Bruce and Bernice Hewlett of South Brook, who now reside in Springdale. There they are, their wedding day and today. Beautiful photos. And finally this evening, we would like to wish a very happy 59th wedding anniversary to Sam and Sue Tobin. Happy anniversary from all your friends and family.
There's still relatively light wind into tomorrow for both Newfoundland and Labrador, the bulk of that coming in from the south, and with less time spent under the sun, well, you know that we got the opportunity for some fog. We can take a quick peek and see it's almost like an anaconda just slowly choking you out, and by the evening hours, starting to see that fog make landfall, specifically on the south side there. Amanda, Michael?
A fog anaconda. It's a new one. Thank you so much, Ryan. Well, that is it for this edition of the NTV Evening News Hour. Thanks for joining us.
Stay with us. Up next on Global National, Ottawa unveils its plan to ban social media for youth, but not AI chatbots. Good night.
Bye for now.